Season 3, Episode 2, we've got Amy Cosgrove in the house, ex-PwC culture leader and an expert on all things data. We're breaking down AI myths, gut instincts, and the real playbook for leading change. Let's get started. Amy, hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this one. This is going to be a good one, I think. I want to get right into it and talk about the data side, because you've been involved in data for a very long time in one of the biggest sort of players in the region, in the world. So give us an insight into what you've been doing over the last few years or throughout your career.
Sure. So I think for me, the biggest realization after many years working for PwC I was working with for that time, so almost 2 decades in this region.
I was going to say a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
Many different roles within the organization. Data was always there, but it was never the first thought. It was never the intent was never with regards to having data in a title or data it really necessarily in a role. It just came along. Whatever you were doing, if you're doing market research, it's data. If you were building a model, it's got data. If you were coming up with a strategy, it's based off data. So it was always there, but it was never sort of the main actor in that movie. Whereas today, and where we are and where things have shifted progressively now, is that data is front and center.
It's king, isn't it?
It's king. If you think about everything that's happening, all the move towards using AI more, you need good data. The data needs to be important, and so it's become the focus of a lot more things. And I didn't wake up one day and dream of working. As a kid, dream of working in data. It's a shock, right?
Yeah,
but it actually just happens naturally. Data also, I guess the misconception is data's not just numbers. Data's everything. It's your emails. It's your strategy document. Yep. It's your people information. Anything is actually data, and learning what to do with that has been what I've been learning to do for without really knowing that for nearly.
How does that happen?
2 decades.
How does that transition happen from whatever else you were doing prior to data being the core focus for what you're doing or what the business is doing, and then transition into that sort of role or that sort of focus? You
sort of start to realize that data is king, and you can't do any of these other things without it. And if you are naturally, as I am, quite a curious person, you start to ask yourself those questions, and you get to that point. Well, actually, whatever we do, the data is important. So it needs to have that focus. And so many people shy away from it because it's like, data, I'm not smart enough to work with data, or, I'm not a numbers person. All those misconceptions. Whereas for me, I was like, well, I see no one else going for that. Let's go. Let's do something with it. Leaders of an organization need good data to be able to make the smartest decisions. And as I was coming up through the ranks and I want to start leading in whatever guise that would be, I need to be able to use data. So I need to be able to trust the data. And so you sort of figure that out. Well, why am I not able to do that today? How can I do that today? So it was really just a happy accident that I ended up taking that path and really not shying away. If something I didn't know, I'd go learn, that sort of stuff. And so a bit life experience, work experience, and self-teaching myself to get there, but just asking the right questions and not being afraid to get things wrong. But really just try and see what I can do, and what does a business need? What does our organization need? So not just for me. In my time, I did a lot of work for clients, but I also did a lot of work internally. And spent the last decade helping the organization here in the Middle East transform internally. And for that, you need data. And of course, there's a lot of it, and a lot of organizations have a lot of data. It was just figuring out, what do we do with it? How do we handle it? What's it telling us? So all the good questions that you need or should be asking yourself when it comes to handling any kind of data.
Can it be wrong? Can it lead you down the wrong path?
Of course it can.
Yeah?
Like anything.
In what way?
Well, first of all, you have to figure out, is the data real? How old is it? Is it still relevant? Did you ask the right questions? Has bias crept into that data? are you able to tell a story with that data?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes if you don't ask yourself the right thing, or if you've set yourself down too strict a path,
Yeah.
and you don't allow yourself to deviate from that, you can go down the wrong hole. So
Yeah.
I think having lots of hypotheses to test,
Yeah.
and I think doing testing and piloting when it comes to your data is important,
Yeah.
because otherwise you can go very wrong. And or if you just blindly trust that the data is correct, you haven't thought about things that could be impacting that data, you might end up making a decision.
Have you seen that happen? Where either on two fronts, where the leaders or the people who are sort of driving that sort of data research, they have a narrative in their mind where they're looking for something, so that they almost create the data to sort of just support their narrative.
That will happen a lot.
Or at the same time, or counter to that, they believe in something just because it's been presented to them without doing that sort of extra research to sort of fact find.
I think that happens a lot,
Yeah.
and I think it happens when you don't have enough people asking questions. So
Okay.
bringing, and that's that bit about that bias
Yeah.
sort of lens to it, making sure that you have other people that are curious looking at it, and do they have are they coming to the same conclusion with that information? Do you need to dig a little bit deeper? Is it purely numbers based, or is there some sort of more qualitative data that backs up what's being said, and really probing into that? I think not asking yourself the right questions will end up getting you in that hole.
Yeah.
And also just never take what's given first time. Always ask.
Yeah.
Always just think what's it really saying. And I think the biggest mistake people make is, if it looks okay, just doing nothing.
Well, I was going to say that the general conception is that data is facts. Therefore, if it's presented to you, then it's gospel, and then you just run with it and then move forward, right?
Yeah.
But really, so how do you actually learn to ask the right questions to be able to sort of prove that data to be correct or valuable or relevant to what you're doing?
I think knowing what questions to ask is very dependent on your organization, the size, the nature, the industry, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You have it would depend. So there's no one size fits all for those sorts of questions. I think what's important is, especially if you've been established for a long time and you have a lot of data, is look for patterns. Is this so? Let's take it simply as a data. There's a data point,
Yeah.
but you don't know whether that number's good, bad. Is it higher than last month, lower? Is that good, bad?
Yeah.
Is it the same? Is it the same as a year ago? Is it the same 5 years ago? Like, what has been the pattern? Look at trends. Don't just look at a static number for this month and go, oh, everything's okay, let's worry about it next month. That's the danger. So I would say look for patterns in the data. Use the tooling, the amazing tooling that we have available to us today to help us look for those patterns. And if there aren't patterns, well, ask yourself why. Should there be? And those sorts of things. Compare yourself to other organizations of your same size or structure or industry. Are they looking at similar things? Are they finding similar things? So really always just, I would say, use a bit of caution in what you have. Don't just take what you've been given as gospel, but really try and understand what that data is telling you. Storytell. Look for the opportunities, look for the risks involved in those data points. And that really then starts to drive purposeful use of the data that you're collecting.
What's more challenging, to do it on an internal basis or do it externally with clients where you have that sort of, arm's length sort of relationship?
I think they both have their challenges. I think
Name them.
You want names, your places. Look, with clients, obviously you're going in. You're not embedded in the organization. So the questions at the first level are sometimes quite generic until you get underneath and really start to understand what you're doing. I think that the key when working with externals is, what are you trying to find? Like, what's keeping you up at night? What are the 5 questions keeping you up at night?
Can you be more brutal with someone external because you don't want to sort of ruffle feathers internally? So you're happy to sort of be a lot more sort of forthcoming with information, or
don't want to upset the client and give them stuff that they already know, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're just representing their data back at them, where's the value in that, right?
Yeah.
So really, what are you trying to achieve here? What value are you going to bring?
Yeah.
I would say, so clients, it's a fine line, and again, it would depend on who you're working with, how sensitive the topic is.
I'm guilty to myself because I heard of a story that someone similar to your business within that sort of realm of where you sat for almost 2 decades had a client here, a very well-known brand here in the region, and they were hired to do this this exact thing of just do the data, look at the sort of pain points, what's working, what's not working, and so forth, present that. They presented that and there were gaps everywhere, and then that client said, okay, let's try and change this because we can't release this as these are our gaps because it just raises too many red flags.
Yep.
And then they almost recalibrated what they actually did.
Yep.
So they got the hard truths originally, didn't like the answers, and said, can we just try and almost redo this or undo what you did and make it look a little bit more
softer,
favorable for us? Can that really happen? Isn't that just like a waste of time?
Well, they're paying the bill, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I think usually when my interpretation of that scenario is that the client knew there was stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and
everyone knows it is,
sometimes they need someone else to come in and present it because the people internally have been trying to get, someone to do something about it for so long that they're like, well, you're not listening to me. Maybe you'll listen
to an external,
to someone else. Nobody likes hearing that there's problems and gaps and things, but if there wasn't, we wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be hiring people to come and help you with it.
It's true.
But again, different clients are different. Other people would have got, well, that's brilliant. Now, can you help me fix these things? How do we fix these? Now, maybe there's different ways of delivering a message in a softer way, so it doesn't seem quite such a slap in the face or embarrassing.
Your house is burning down.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a bit of smoke coming. So I think those sorts of things you become, and the team around you would help, with that, and you'd, don't go away, squirrel away with the data, and then come back with this presentation. Bring the people on the journey with you. Look, we're noticing this. Is this right? Is this the sort of thing you're expecting? Help me figure out how we present this best to your organization. Have those conversations. Don't just go away and come up with good, bad, or ugly results. The people around you are the ones that are going to be left with picking up the pieces of whatever you've done. So bring them along. Have the conversation. Has anyone talked to the leadership about this before? Or are we going to tell them for the first time? Who on the leadership already knows this? Who, like that? Those sorts of conversations are a lot more impactful than just a team of data analysts squirreling away and coming up with a dashboard. What is the story? What is the real risk? If an organization doesn't like it, that's fine. But if you can point out, well, what's the risk or the opportunity that you have here? And spin it in a way that's positive. If you make this change, we've identified this. If you do this, it's going to save you this much money, or it's going to improve the culture by this amount, which should reduce, your turnover costs or your recruitment costs, or sort of things like this. Or if you spend a little bit more time in this area, it's going to save you loads more in the long term. Those sorts of, if you turn it around in a positive light, that's better.
Yeah.
Internally, I guess coming back to your original question, if we look at internally, there's a high expectation on you. At the end of the day, it's these are your bosses. With the client, you finish the work and you go on to the next one.
Yeah, of course.
You may never go to them. Never. Whereas that's your job, right? With your internal stakeholders. But on the one hand, and because I'd been there so long, so much more about the organization and the people that run it and the people on the ground doing the work. So it becomes, you're able to ask yourself harder questions, and you're able to push, a little bit in areas that you couldn't because you have the access.
Has it ever contradicted what you've known because you've been there for so long? So you're living in there for almost 2 decades, and then the data comes to you and it shows you something completely contradictory to what you actually see, live, breathe, and feel in there. How do you handle that? So
I would say where you see the most deviation from what you think versus what seems to be the sentiment is around people data.
Okay.
So, numbers are numbers. Revenue's revenue and sales are sales. They're pretty, hopefully, if people are forecasting properly, not too far off, right? Yeah. When it comes to the human side, when it comes to the people, when it comes to your teams, occasionally you would find a difference between what a survey would tell you versus the feeling on the ground.
Yeah, the gut feel,
and the
right?
gut feel, how you're feeling, everyone around you.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably typically where you see the biggest differences is with human beings.
We live in a world where, like you said, data is king, knowledge is power. We have access to almost an overload of knowledge and just information to try and just consume it on every sort of platform.
Yep.
And we're in a situation where everything is overly sensitive. It's we are overanalyzing almost every act that we do as human beings, especially in the workforce. As leaders, we're scrutinized, we're watched over with what we're actually doing and so forth. So we are constantly just working towards how we better ourselves, and sometimes we almost over-program our minds to sort of look at data or look at these sort of numbers or these sort of things that we can learn or that we can extract, and we almost neglect the gut. And I can think of almost every bad hiring decision I've made is when I've gone based on numbers. And I have looked at the person, the human, for who they are, behind the numbers, behind their performance, and said, I don't sit well with this person for some reason. They don't rub me the right way. But their numbers say, go for it. Their performances, their track record just says this one can add value to your business. Every time I've ignored the gut, without fail, not even like 50% of the time, 100% of the time, it's been an absolute disaster. The gut knows.
Well, and you said something interesting there. In fact, you're saying that person is going to add value to the business. You're talking numbers.
Yeah, we're talking numbers.
Value to a business is also the kind of people that you hire in terms of their attitude.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I'm hiring people and I'm interviewing people, everyone looks good on a CV. That's the point. Everyone's great on paper. That's how they're in the door.
Yeah.
My first conversation with anyone, I want to get to know that person. I've got your CV.
On a human level.
Talk to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Is this the kind of person, especially if you're looking at sort of managers, team leaders, that sort of thing and above, you need people that you want everyone else to look up to and aspire to be. So you might have the best numbers in the world, but if you're not a good person, if you are not the kind of person that's going to help the culture or build a healthy culture for whatever organization you're in, really that needs to be factored in.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be this guy knows all these people and is going to bring us in all this money.
Yeah.
But think about the impact that individual is going to have on the team that person's going to lead or the department that person's going to work in. Are they going to cause you drama that's going to cost you time, effort and money down the line? Which actually it will, which will offset the benefit. That's very short-sighted way of looking at people. And so I think the human side of things should not be ignored.
Yeah.
With all of this data and all of the cool tools and algorithms and stuff we have going on, they will never truly understand
100%.
Human beings. And you get that gut feel from people. I like you. I might not have a role for you right now, but I like you as a person. Actually, and if you like a person, you're more likely to
create something
for them and go, look, you're not the right fit for this, but you're cool. I'd like to talk to you every day, or I'd like to continue this conversation. Let's, and that's the sort of, but again, that's data.
Yeah.
But it's human to human data. It's that connection that no AI is ever going to be able to create for you. And I think, we forget that sometimes. We focus too much.
As leaders, we're so driven by the bottom line.
Yeah,
we're so driven by revenue and the numbers and the things that we can report, whether it's the boards, whether, or whatever it may be. So it's very easy to, even though you might feel these things in your gut, it's very easy to just put them aside because that's not impacting my day-to-day, because you just said that it does, but you can just put it aside and say it's not going to impact, because what I need is a revenue generator. What I need is someone who's going to bring in a whole bunch of clientele, who's going to grow our business exponentially and so forth. But really, it is that human side.
Yeah.
It is that human connection. It is the team that gets along, that aren't forcing it, that aren't faking it, that want to work with one another, want to help one another, want to learn from one another, you know, and have that sort of mindset. Because that can't be taught, right? You're not teaching a human being to be a good human being.
No.
You can teach someone to do their job. You can give them the tools of the trade to be able to do their job better, to be able to close a client, to be able to, you know, map out their market and learn certain things or write code or whatever. But you're not going to teach someone to be a good human being. No.
I mean, I was talking in extremes there, you know, that we're all different and we all do things differently. And I also very much would like to champion formally diversity, and we can't all be the same, and not just because someone doesn't think. We're not holding hands, skipping around the office all the time. And bringing in healthy challenge into an environment is also good, because it raises a bar. You need to throw in a little bit of that change every so often, but just be cautious around the wider impact that those sorts of decisions will have, whether it's on a particular person or a particular, even if you're thinking about bringing in a different tool, or bringing in some different software, or bringing in a different way of working. Think about the wider impact, because things that might seem on paper by numbers very beneficial, have you really thought that through? Is that going to, what problem are you trying to solve by doing this? You're about to spend a lot of money and a lot of time. What's the end goal? What are you trying to achieve? And actually have the right people challenged you enough in that decision to agree that this is going to support that change or that vision. Yeah. You mentioned AI, and it wouldn't be a podcast episode without talking about AI. Otherwise, not in 2025. There's no chance, right? So it's got a huge impact on what we do, how we live, and so forth. How much of it has it impacted what you do? I think it impacts as much as you let it impact. Do you welcome it? Yes, absolutely. I think if you see it as a partner, you don't see it as something that's going to replace you. It's something that's going to enable you to be better, a better version of yourself. So for me, it's all about quality. AI is about quality. And it's about giving you the ability to spend more time doing the cooler things and doing the things that maybe you've not had time to do before, because you've been so busy delivering on these things that historically have taken you forever to do. Now that can be done almost instantaneously. So it gives you time to focus and do bigger, better things. That's how I view it. So I definitely embraced it. I think there's a common trend of people just jumping on bandwagons here, there, and everywhere again, without really understanding: do we really need that? Is this the one we need? Is this going to help us? You know, what am I doing this for? You know, you don't need to, just because something's available, you don't need to have it. Really think about what you're going to use this for. And you know, is forcing it on everyone the right thing to do? You can't force it. You can't. You can encourage it. You can, but I think the challenge is people are feeling quite threatened. Or in my experience, people are feeling threatened by it because they feel like it's being forced on them. If I don't use this, if I don't learn how to use it, I'm going to lose my job. Or if I do embrace it, it's going to replace me. Like, there's all these different. Again, the impact of bringing these things in, it's the way you do it and the narrative you put behind it. Again, the problem you're trying to solve by doing it. And AI, you know what? Again, especially in organizations as big as where I've been, one solution doesn't work for everyone. You know, you need to break that down and go, what are you trying to solve? And it's very different to what you're trying to solve. And really appreciating that, understanding what that means, and encouraging people to be curious but then of course you have to think about from a safety perspective, you know, while protecting you as an individual, protecting the organization, protecting your clients. You know, you have to be careful with the tools that you use and that sort of stuff. So it's that encouragement, but in a way that's safe and not going to release. You give me a very safe answer with this one. So I was running a training session yesterday, and the team that I was training, I was just explaining to them about when I first started in the industry, which is a very, very long time ago now, about 23 years ago now. So I had a full head of hair and a man bun, which was just super, super cool at the time. We did it with no LinkedIn. Right. So talk about no access to any sort of technology, let alone AI. It was yellow pages, white pages, and just go and hunt and try and win business that way. Right? Very, very old school. And
just explaining to the team what they have at their disposal now is strapping themselves to a rocket ship and just explode and just go to the moon, because you've got so much at your disposal in relation to tools that they can use, that they can build their business at a rapid pace. They can reach out and talk to so many people at a rapid pace. We're building like an AI outreach tool at the moment internally in our business, which will allow me to speak to, I would say, 1,500 people on a WhatsApp voice note within seconds. Right? That's never going to happen with me manually doing it.
Yeah.
But I do have 1,700 numbers in my phone, and I do want to speak to every single person who I've met with over the 10 years in this region. How do I do that? AI will allow me to do that. People have responded to my message saying, is this an AI message? Are you building it yourself? Let's talk about it. How are you building this?
Yep.
So even though they're laughing at the fact that my voice might sound a little bit robotic, because it's an AI tool, it's still engaging with them, and they're still curious to understand how this is actually being built. So I think everyone needs to somehow learn in their own way, because everyone's different and everyone's going to have their own fears internally about how this is going to, like you said, potentially replace them or make their job, redundant. My previous guest said, let it replace all the things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right? And then lead me to the things that I actually really enjoy.
Absolutely.
The human touch of my role, I want to keep on doing that. But everything else, let's try and automate it. Let's try and get it done by AI, so I don't have to do that and bog myself down with all the stuff that is just so mundane, and let me do the exciting stuff.
Exactly.
Shouldn't that be like the mindset? How did we get everyone to believe this? Tell me, Amy. Come on, help me tell the world with the millions of viewers that we have.
I'd be a millionaire if I knew the answers to that. I think again, it comes down to the culture of the organization that you have, and the people that you have, and the kind of work that they're doing, and tailoring the message, tailoring the narrative and the story that you want to tell to that particular scenario. Again, it's not a one size fits all, and when we're talking about how things change rapidly, it's the fastest changing piece of it all. Really, is what was cool as an app to use yesterday, it'll be redundant in 6 months, if not sooner, or it was replaced by something else. I think it's about understanding, if I think for myself, what am I trying to do? So what tasks am I doing over and over again? Most people, because again, if I think about data, if I think about the data thing and people going, oh, I'm not good with numbers, so I don't like data. I think with AI, people are like, oh, I'm not a technical person, so it scares me. So they'll use the base, they'll chat GPT things. They'll use it like they used Google. It's basically become the Google replacement for the most part. People don't need to worry about being the person that builds the solution. Don't worry about how you're going to do something, but think about what would make your day easier. If you take not just a day, because most of us don't have typical days, but over a period of time, think about the tasks and think about what you're doing, whether that's personal or professional, that's taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
And think about, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to do that all the time? So in your example, wouldn't it be great if at the touch of one button, I can reach 1,500 people in one go? Whereas before we'd have to make a lot of phone calls. Yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah. Good fun.
Yeah, they're great. So I think it's about looking at yourself and your own scenario, and you don't have to suddenly start implementing it at work. Think just about your personal life. It's mostly unlikely that you're going to come up with an idea that no one else has thought about. So then
Absolutely
go
not.
and then do some research on, has anyone else come up with this? Or even, you talked about LinkedIn. People are collaborating on LinkedIn. People are coming up with really cool ideas on LinkedIn. Post something and see what kind of reaction you get. People, you'll be amazed at how many people go, oh my, that would be great. So like into your scenario, people have been coming to you going, how have you done this? Not because they haven't necessarily thought about it. They haven't got the time to think about it. People are too busy delivering, or they think someone else who works in that sort of build space will build something, and then I'll utilize it.
I'll use it.
When it's built. And so I think it's not being afraid. The answer is not being afraid to have a go. You don't have to build something yourself. There's usually someone that will do that for you if you needed to, or it's already being built somewhere else. Just be curious. I think it's in getting people to not be afraid. It's going to change how we do work. It will make some roles in themselves redundant, of course. But that's been happening
always
for years.
Yeah.
Years and years. It's just obviously the scale and the speed at which it's happening. So you need to prepare yourself to be able to pivot, to grow, and as you said, to do the things that bring you joy, and not have to, you think about the admin sort of side of things that takes up a lot of time. If you could automate that, why wouldn't you? And then use that time to do the cooler things and do things that make things better for you and for the people around you. I think
there are so many clients that we talk to from the HR perspective that their internal processes are just so archaic. It is mind-boggling how in 2025 they are processing, whether it's visas, whether it's performance reviews with Excel spreadsheets. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like you can't be doing this. And these aren't just very old school. These are big businesses. These are brands that we all know, that we all know very well. And we're privileged to get that sort of insight into, when we do sit with them and talk to them. But we walk away from that meeting thinking, how is this possible? Like, is it that difficult to make that sort of transformation from that archaic sort of laborious process, just mundane spreadsheets, some even paperwork, physical paper and printouts and so forth. No fax machines anymore, thank God. But they have all that. And is it just so difficult for them to change into this new way of doing things?
Change is hard. Change is hard.
It is for most people.
And the bigger the organization and the longer those processes have been embedded, the harder it gets. And a lot of things do get put in the too hard bucket. It's working. Why, it's not broken, don't fix it. Because there are so many other things going on in an organization that, again, if something's just working and everyone's used to it.
That's what it is, isn't it?
It's the habit. It's the habit of it.
Yeah.
The trick to that is around the storytelling and looking at the cost and looking at the opportunity, looking at the risk. By not doing this, we're having all this. By doing this, this is how much it's costing us. This is how long it's taking. This is all of these different things. This is getting embarrassing now. We've got people coming in who we can't work with or we want to work with. When you're thinking about working, if you've got a process where something has to leave your organization and go to another, you can't be left behind. You've got to do something. Yeah. And I think so much of the change that needs to happen is now being forced because of these things that everyone's very overwhelmed and don't know where to start. And there's so much that needs to change. So again, I think it's time to you have to step back, accept that change needs to come. But you don't need to do everything at once. Let's focus on the key areas. Let's focus on the things that we can do and can change quickly. You may need to bring in some new people. You might need to get rid of some people. You might need to move things around. But that's the nature of change. People will either come on board or they won't. And again, that helps with you figuring out, who from a cultural perspective is right for the future, and the sustainability of your organization is going to be built around these people. And even more so with the rate of change that's happening, people need to be agile. And people need to be open-minded to these different things. And if they're not, really, how long is that person going to have?
People think that typically you're agile when you work in a sort of scale-up startup and then if you're in a multinational, then you have the license to not be agile because we're a large multinational business with 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 staff, and therefore we don't need to we just stay in our lane. We pigeonhole ourselves, and agility is not one of our values. We're not focusing on that at all because we're not startup people. We're not entrepreneurs. We don't need to be that sort of nimble in our thinking, which is again wrong, because agility is something that you need to have whether you work for a large multinational or whether a five-person startup, right?
Correct. You should.
Yeah.
And the larger the organization and the more established, the easier it is to get lazy at that.
Yeah.
And it is. It can, in putting things in the too hard bucket, or assuming someone else is looking at that. Why? I don't need to look at this. And that will work for some people. Again, you need diversity. You need different voices in the room. But I think that the message is change is hard. We know none of us like to change.
Yeah.
Your personal habits, your professional way of working. But
I love change.
I've worked in transformation for the last decade. Right? So I love change.
Yeah.
But it has to be purposeful.
Yeah.
Don't just change for change's sake, and yes, there's always going to be teething problems. Yes, you're always going to have loved, I preferred it on that tool rather than this. No, but then within 6 months, everyone's forgotten.
Yeah.
And everyone's used to the new way of doing things now, and they're used to, and you sort of forget the old way of doing it. So, but it's having that healthy relationship yourself with change, I think will help. But there's no magic one for it.
No, there isn't. Of course,
there's no right way to do it.
But it is that purpose-led sort of
you
change.
have to have purpose, and leadership in whatever guise that takes has to be on board.
Yeah.
They have to be that tone from the top. If you don't have that, you are pushing a boulder uphill.
Yeah.
You need that pull from the top, and you need the people at the top living and breathing this change. Because if they're against it, why is anyone else going to bother?
That's with everything in that business, right?
Yep.
If the leaders aren't on board, no matter what idea there is,
no
matter what change you're trying to sort of implement in that organisation, if the leaders aren't driving that from the top,
if they don't see the value and they're not championing it, for the business, it's a non-starter. I mean, and you're going to embed some change that's just going to be really painful.
Yeah.
So get that buy-in early. If they're not buying, understand why. Well, is this the whole? Why are we doing it then? Yeah. Well, we need it. Well, then how can I get you to want it more? And of course, the bigger the organisations, the different characters, that the harder that becomes. But therein lies the fun and the challenge, and what I enjoy the most.
You mentioned that it changes so rapidly every 6 months. What was cool today may not be cool or relevant in 6 months' time. Can you give us an insight into what are the 3 sort of key metrics, your go-to metrics when you're looking at an organisation at the moment, when you're sort of looking at that sort of data and saying that these are the 3 things that are going to stand out for me? Is there a top 3 for you at all?
I think it depends on what the exam question was to begin with.
Okay.
Again, I don't think there's a core. Business wouldn't just come in and go, look at everything. What's the problem you're trying to solve? So I guess that is kind of question number 1, regardless of what it is what question are you trying to solve? Yeah. Why am I here?
It's like you don't go to a garage and take your car there and say, just figure out what's wrong with my car. You tell them what's wrong with the car first, right?
Yeah. Yes. My warning lights come on. Yeah. Go fix. Exactly. So I think the question is, what are we trying to solve? What does good look like for you? What do you want? And what are you trying to achieve?
Well, surely they don't know. I mean,
sometimes
they might know the problem, but they surely wouldn't know what good looks like to them.
Again, very much depends on the maturity of the organisation and the nature of the organisation, the size, geography. Yeah. Because especially in working across this region, it differs country to country. So I think it's really just asking a few key questions. What's keeping you up at night? Yeah. That's one of my favourites to ask a leader is, what keeps you up? What are you worried about? Okay. And then you start there. Don't try and boil the ocean. Yeah. Take a few key things. What do you when you wake up in the morning, what do you want to know about your organisation to do your job today? Like that's kind of, and start there. And it's usually because for years and years, we've provided leaders with piles of data, presentations, spreadsheets. Now it's Power BI, dashboards, Tableau doing its thing. But how much of that do they actually look at? What's the one key metric on that dashboard of 50 that they actually care about? Is there anything actionable from what they're seeing? What do they need to worry about? Sometimes, and most of the time, if they're in a leadership position, they know what's keeping them up at night. Yeah. But no one asks them. They're just given the same 50 data points that they've been given every week for the last 10 years. Go back to basics. What do you need to know? And we'll start there. Then as we go down, there'll be another layer that'll need more. So you present something for them and it gets deeper and deeper. But just start with those core questions.
Such basic questions that just open up everything, right?
Yeah. And especially if you've got new leadership or recently new leadership, they tend to just inherit what was given to the last person. Well, is that useful? Is that what you want? Is that what's going to work for you? But again, with everything, what is the actionable insight from this data that you're providing? What are they going to do with it? because they'll get very bored with it very quickly. There's a reason for them to look at it. And also, if there's too much, it becomes overwhelming. What are you going to focus on? There's too much going on. So just take it back to basics. What's, even me, I would think about what's keeping me up at night. Okay, and then I need a dashboard on that, or I need to track this a bit more, or I need to ask some more questions of this. Be conscious of that. Don't just take what's given.
Yeah.
Be curious and ask some different questions. And don't be afraid to shake things up a bit and change things.
Can you think of a client that blew you away because they were just so far ahead from where you were, from your thinking, from your research, where they just kind of knew things and you were there to sort of confirm or just reaffirm their thoughts or feelings towards the business or towards the culture?
Great question. Probably.
Yeah.
I think because of the nature of the work that we were doing and the fact that it was very different organizations every time, you learned something new. What still blows me away today is how little a lot of organizations, especially the larger ones, are more reactive to people data than proactive.
Okay.
Which always blows me away. And when I come across
fascinating,
when I talk to people, so less with clients I've worked with, but more so with talking to my friends and peers. When we talk about these things and we compare, our work days with each other, is organizations are now realizing that the consequences of not doing anything with your people engagement data is starting to have a big impact on your organization. And again, a bit like how data used to come along, your people have been coming along for so long, you've become quite complacent with them, and you've got a healthy attrition rate and everything's okay. Yeah. You don't really do anything unless something happens and then you need to react. Yeah. Whereas I think for me, what is great to start to see today in today's world and with organizations I'm speaking to is that they're a lot more proactive with that stuff, because they are realizing the consequences of not, and that is going to potentially in the long run cost them a lot more than just waiting. Suddenly, there's 20 people have resigned from that team, we must do something. Whereas actually, if you'd have been asking yourself the right questions earlier on, or watching for looking at the patterns in the data, maybe you could have predicted that and stopped that from happening. Things like that. So what for me, that's what I'm welcoming in the conversations at the moment is a lot more around organizations that are actually using that data, not just using people engagement as a tick box exercise. Yes, we've surveyed our people this year, tick. Actually doing something meaningful with that data. And
it's empowering when you work for an organization that actually feels or thinks that way. Because I worked for a business many years ago. There was a multinational, so large, massive, and even back then they were doing things so right. We were looking at those flight risks, people in there, looking at the patterns as to why that person was disgruntled, why that person was disconnected to the culture and so forth, and seeing how we can address it earlier. And, again, we had a pretty good, retention, and, it was easy to sort of bring people into the business as well because of the brand and whatnot. But overall, behind the scenes, the teams, the leadership were doing a lot of work with whatever data we had back then, which is nowhere near what we have today. But still, the focus was we want to be preventing any problems, not solving the problems afterwards, right? It's that whole sort of medical thing,
prevention is better than cure,
right? So we want to try 100%. And stop these from happening to begin with. And like you said, if there's a team that has lost 20 people, why are you waiting till 20 to look at that and say, there's a pattern.
Yep.
There's a problem. Why aren't you going now for one or two?
Yep.
Like why? Seriously, one or two is enough.
Yep.
One exit is enough for you to look at to say, you know what? You've probably exited that person, but why have you exited that person? Yep. Why has that person failed? That human responsibility that we have for every employee that we bring into an organization has to be valued, because we take them from a job where they were comfortable, where they were satisfied and they were getting paid, and we bring them into our organization that could potentially be setting them up to fail because we're not looking at things behind the scenes with the detail that we should be as leaders.
And I think the opportunity for organizations to offer internal mobility to individuals is hugely untapped still in my experience. Yep. People think, I'm not doing my job well, I'm going to go. Yeah. And they leave. Whereas, you know, maybe you've come in, the job isn't what you thought it was going to be, but you still really like the organization. Well, is there another opportunity for you within that organization? Yeah, exactly. You know, your first instinct shouldn't be, I'm out of here. If it is, again, that's another problem that people should be looking at and addressing. But I think one of the biggest things that especially the larger organizations tend to miss is that internal mobility. Yeah. Or an individual themselves thinking that that's possible. You know, and knowing that it is. And how do you encourage that? Yeah. Because that's hugely beneficial. If you've got someone that already knows your business, they're going to hit the ground running over in this team quicker than anyone that you're going to bring from externally. So that sort of thing, I think, needs to be brought into a lot more conversations with regards to your people engagement and getting people to stay longer is by opening doors and giving them those opportunities. Now, you know, I've 20 years in the same organization. I've not done the same job for years on that whole time, but I had to go and sort of force my way through to find these opportunities. You know, they didn't come to me. And even sort of today, that internal mobility isn't as mature as I would have liked it to have been for our people. It's there, but it's not easy to find. And when you're busy, it's not, something that you think about. So I would encourage anyone to think about what are the other options within the organization, because you work hard. You've upskilled yourself, you've embedded yourself, you've probably got some friends in the office. After a few days, weeks, months, don't throw all that away just because a particular role is not working out for you. Yeah. Think about what transferable skills you have that might be useful somewhere else. Start having those conversations. Don't limit yourself.
It's almost like a team that maybe are producing a podcast or something like that, and they also work in a recruitment agency, and they wear multiple hats, but they're given the opportunity to just explore different avenues in the career path.
Yeah.
It's just
and with AI now taking away a lot of the sort of transactional stuff, you've got time, right? You've got time to take on a second path.
We're happy to just come to a studio and just do a recording. Why not? Let's bring out the crystal ball for a second, okay? And let's try and tap into that knowledge that you have, okay? And make some bold predictions that we can look back and laugh in, say, 12 months' time or 18 months' time. So let's just see, what are we looking at in the data perspective and AI in particular over the next sort of 12 months? What sort of tools do you think, or what sort of access or power do you think we're going to have moving forward, say, in 12 months' time? Bold predictions. Don't be safe.
No, look, I think there's a big risk that we are putting too much, as individuals, too much trust in these tools, and we are giving them too much information. Yeah.
Could there be a leakage?
Yeah, for sure. I think every day we are increasing the risk of data we didn't want being out there, being out. Even as innocently as you putting stuff into ChatGPT to ask it for something about yourself. There might be data you didn't want out there that somebody at some point in the future could find and use against you.
Have you done the ask ChatGPT to describe your personality in a synopsis before? Have you done it?
Of course I have.
Yeah.
We've all played that game.
It's scary, isn't it? It is very accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's I did it probably about 6 months ago, and I hadn't been using ChatGPT that much because I'd been trying to focus more on the internal tools that we were given sort of to use, which were in a lovely, safe, protected environment. So it didn't tell me much. And so when I first ran it, it was interesting because obviously I'd asked it a few things, but they were kind of random and ad hoc. But as I've started using it more and more, it gets scarier and scarier at how much it knows about you. And so I think every couple of months I keep re-asking and re-evaluating, and if it's given me tips, if I've asked for development, where could I develop more if I wanted to be this, I like to see if anything has happened, transform myself as much as everybody else. But there is that inherent risk. And I think people are so there's the risk of the leakage. There's the risk of people trusting it too much. Trusting that the answer it's given you is the right answer. Is that accurate? People aren't questioning it enough. And I think there's a risk that, going back to a question you asked me very early on around making a mistake and making a decision that was the wrong one ultimately. this is going to just increase the risk of that happening, because you're trusting that this thing is giving you the right answer.
So Amy's bold statement is, in 12 months' time, we're going to have a large multinational organisation have some huge internal secrets leaked out in the ether. Almost like a Coldplay sort of exposed version, but just on the AI version, right?
Really, the risk is real. The risk is real, and with the different tools, especially the very, very large organisations, lots of people, you can't watch everybody all the time.
That's right.
And there's always going to be someone that, whether maliciously or very innocently and unintentionally, puts you at that risk. And you only need that one moment for somebody to come in and find it and pluck that data that you have, overnight done something horrendous. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's completely innocently and by accident.
That's right.
And that's the challenge with trying to encourage people to use things, but making sure that they are aware of how best to do it, and how to do it safely, so not to put you at risk. But I think that risk is inherent. I mean, we've seen it happen already. Like, there's been big cases in the US and across Europe where things have been leaked. There was the big recruitment one around the bias in the model.
That's horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah.
We're going to see more examples of that happening for sure.
Okay.
I hope not, but I mean,
we are going to look at this in 5 months' time. Don't worry. We'll do like a recap episode just to see how accurate you were.
I like to think it was nice and vague enough that it could pretty much capture anything.
Part of me hopes you're right, to be honest, because I do like a bit of gossip. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. We've got some rapid fire questions. Now, I do believe we're probably going to change the name for rapid fire questions to something else, but we'll work on that behind the scenes. But
ask AI what it.
Yeah, we'll ask AI for some alternatives. It'll come up with some pearlers, I bet. The one app that's non-email, non-WhatsApp that you can't live without. I've
become addicted to my health tracker.
The Ring thing.
A ring, if they want to send me a free one. Name drop. No, I've become quite obsessed with that. My partner has the Whoop, and I have the Aura Ring.
Whoop,
and every morning the first thing we do is so romantic. We check our sleep. We sort of compare data, and so I've become quite obsessed with that. So I would say that's probably one thing that I'd miss. I mean, obviously you could live without it, but I found it incredibly beneficial. Because it's forced me to focus on me and my health, my sleep and my activity. So,
If someone was to write a book about you, what would the title be of that book?
This wasn't in the job description. That would be the title.
That's actually brilliant. That's the best answer possible. Okay. Someone alive, famous, that you would love to have dinner with.
Someone alive I would like to have dinner with. No, people normally ask you who's dead and you'd like to have dinner with, but who's alive is a completely different. I think
I like looking at the things that are possible, not things that are in the past.
No. It's great, but normally those sorts of things come.
Apart from this podcast, by the way.
Obviously. Apart from this conversation. I mean, you want to come out with something really profound that makes you seem really deep, and
give it like a footballer or like an actor or something, just to be shallow. Who cares?
Okay. No, for me, I think it would be somebody like, gosh.
Oh, stumped you.
No, you have stumped me. It would be.
It's rapid fire, Amy. It's rapid fire. Come on.
For me, it would probably be somebody like Peter Jackson.
Okay.
Or Steven Spielberg or something. For me, big movie fan.
Yeah.
That's my guilty pleasure.
Let's go.
No, you can't ask that question.
Come on.
True movie fans don't have a favourite movie. They have different favourite movies for different genres. For me, there's movies that I can watch over and over again. I love a Disney movie, big Disney fan. And I think the reason I sort of said a Peter Jackson kind of person is because I was in love with what he did with Tolkien's work and continue to be inspired by what he did. I went to the tour in New Zealand. I mean, I was proper nerding out in Middle Earth a few years back. I think for me, I love those big stories that you get lost in completely different worlds and experiences. Because work and life is quite stressful. I don't want to see other people's stress in this world. So to completely switch off and go to a different for me is fantastic. And meeting someone that has that sort of creative vision, I think that would be a fascinating conversation.
Amazing. We'll stay on theme. The one show that you're binging at the moment, if any?
We've just watched Landman.
Okay.
I'm going to come out across as such a nerd. So Taylor Sheridan is the guy that kind of wrote, produced, directed, rented the farm out to Yellowstone.
Yes.
Everyone's heard of Yellowstone.
Yes, of course.
So Landman is another series from the same guy.
Okay.
And it's all around the oil business in Texas.
Oh, brilliant.
And the guys that work the land, drilling for oil in Texas. Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I mean, just keep the hits coming. Not affiliated. Yeah, so we've just finished that, and excited to see that they're filming a second season, because that's quite good.
Last one, guilty pleasure that keeps you sane.
Other than movies.
Yeah.
So I was, you want rapid fire. I would say being on the water.
Yeah.
So I wake surf.
Yeah.
Something a lot of people don't know about me.
Yeah.
Where I was born in England, very middle of England. In fact, I think we proudly say we're furthest away from any sort of massive water.
Yes, you are.
where we're from. Yeah. It surprises people how much of a water baby I am.
Okay.
And so when I got to move here 20 years ago, the fact that I could see the ocean, be in it, on it, under it every day if I wanted to be was amazing to me. And so for me, when I need to chill, when I need a moment, my moments are on the water or in it. And that's my happy place.
That's your me time, right?
That's my, it's pretty much usually solo. It's very, very solo.
Yeah.
You can't think about anything else. But when I'm wake surfing, I can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Your troubles have to go away because you have to focus on what you're doing. Of course. And for me, that's. I know there's lots of other things you can do that have that same impact, but for me, that's the one I've found that is mine. And I am very fortunate and love the fact that I get to wake up every morning and I can see the ocean from my window. For me, that's winning at life, and being able to go before work, weekends, whether that be surfing myself, instructing. Yeah. I went and tried here's another one. I went and tried the wave pool up at the Abu Dhabi Surf Abu Dhabi, official name, not affiliated. And I mean, what a wonderful place we live in, that things like that are pretty much on our doorstep. Absolutely. I mean, so blessed. That for me is that's my guilty pleasure.
Brilliant. Amy, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've known you, I think I met you 7 or 8 years ago, so to still be in contact and to get you on board for Series 3 has been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Your insights have been brilliant. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.